Good afternoon. So to start with, I'd like us to do a little thought experiment. If everyone could close their eyes for a moment. And I want you to imagine the most terrifying creature you can possibly think of. It could be something that scared you in your nightmares or as a child, or it could be a mixture of all those horror movies you've been watching. Now picture that monster. And next to it, I want you to picture a hero. Someone you look up to who has protected you, or basically your perfect version of a hero. Now, tell me, or rather tell yourself in your mind, what does that monster look like? What is its skin color? What is its texture? Does it have teeth? One eye, many eyes? And then compare and contrast the monster with the hero. What does the hero look like? What is their ethnicity? Do they have armor? Do they have a shield? Thank you. You can open your eyes now. And while you're sitting there looking at me and thinking, that was strange, what language are you thinking in? I think in about 70% English, 25% Shona, and 5% I have no idea. And I still don't really know what language I laugh or cry in. Basically, what I wanted to illustrate is that we are a sum of all the experiences that we have in our lives, and that the programming that we watch as children has an impact on how we identify heroes and villains. I'm going to hazard a guess that if you have been growing up in this part of the world, that your villain may have been slightly darker colored. And if you have been growing up in this part of the world, your hero may have been slightly lighter colored. So, there you go. When I was 5 years old in Zimbabwe, I used to do this all the time. We didn't have TV growing up, and when we did, there was only 1 hour of programming, and like 5 minutes of it was cartoons. So I was in a state of constant pain. I loved cartoons. My parents had gone to school in London, and I was there from 3 to 5, and I had just been saturated with all manner of media. So then to go back to Zimbabwe was just definitely a drop for me. So, inspired by some of my grandmother's folk tales, I would cut up my own characters and make them have intense battles and long sagas that would last for years. Until one day, my cousin came to visit, and he asked me, how come all the characters you draw are white? And I thought, shut up, we're playing a game right now, okay? But that was a good question. I realized that a lot of the cartoons and things I'd watched were, American. Some of my favorite cartoons, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, had anthropomorphic characters, so they weren't specifically any ethnicity, but there was still a very distinctly Western feel to them. Another question I always find fascinating as a person from another culture is when I ask people, when you talk to yourself in your mind, how do you refer to yourself? Do you say you or I, or do you say dude? That's how much I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I sometimes call myself dude. And so when my cousin asked me that question, I didn't really think about it, because I was just like, okay, fine, I'll try and draw a black guy. But it didn't come as easily, because I'd grown up watching a lot of predominantly white cartoons. And coming to the US and sort of looking back at my home, I've definitely noticed that there's some aspects of culture that start from a young age and sort of channel us into looking at things a certain way. Examples of this. My little brother goes to school in Edmonton in Canada. And one day he was riding his bike past a couple of kids making a snowman. And as he rode his bike past them, they screamed, "Ah, it's a black guy." My sister is in Australia and in Perth. And she told the story just the other day of getting on the bus and having a lady call her a dog. And then my little brother is also a soccer player, and everyone in my family except me are huge soccer fans. If you watch the UEFA Premier League or European soccer, you might have noticed this strange phenomenon of certain fans throwing bananas at black players. And this got me thinking, were they watching the same thing as me? Or maybe is the question, What were they not watching? So growing up in Zimbabwe, at age 5 in elementary school, there's this sort of time where I knew that people were different, but it wasn't a big deal. There was no stigma attached to it. Case in point, we used to play blacks against whites soccer and not think anything of it. And we would argue over the Indian kid because he was really good. And at a certain point, one of the teachers told us not to play that game. And then I thought to myself, well, isn't that what the World Cup is? Basically, I'm wondering, what are the programs that we watch and what are the programs that we don't watch that affect our outlook on life? I think excluding people is, in essence, saying that they are not worthy or that they are not as valuable to society. And media and culture are in a constant feedback loop. So I'm here to talk about ways that we can prevent a negative feedback loop and try and get more voices into the media that we watch and the media that our children watch. Because there is a certain stage of openness when you're young or when you're a teenager, when you're more open to other cultures. For example, in high school in Zimbabwe, after elementary school, we had these different cliques. Here you might know them as the jocks or the mean girls, but where I'm from, they were divided by race, unfortunately. I was sort of a floater. I liked to hang out with whoever could make me laugh, but I was also guilty of just staying within my group. And it was actually hip-hop music which enabled us to cross the boundaries, because the Indian kids knew how to download the music illegally. So it was really fascinating to me to see that my white friend, who I thought, I would never have anything in common with, was a huge fan of DMX. And so this is my call to action, that we need to have some serious intentionality. In essence, a civil rights movement for the imagination, and spanning across all sort of underrepresented perspectives. And I think it needs to start now, before it's too late, before our kids grow older and have these skewed attitudes. Because if we're passive about it, then there's still examples of things going on today that aren't right. Specifically, I think the way that we need to do this is to become thieves. And I think, allow me to explain a little. I think this is the type of stealing that Fred would approve of. As every child grows up, there's a safe, and in that safe, there is the openness that you have as a child, self-esteem based on what you do, what you hope to do, and not based on your relation to other people, your ability to accept other people, and your honesty. I think we need to find a way to safeguard that safe. And who are the bad guys who are trying to steal it? Well, they could be our parents, they could be the media, it could be us after a bad experience. We need to put together a team of characters that can go in and bring that safe out and open it and keep it open so that children can grow up being open to other perspectives. And we have to use every tool that we have at our disposal. Technology is a great help in this, because if I play a video game right now, I can make a character that looks like anything, any sort of avatar. We need to find more original voices, more original creators. And this isn't just a race thing, but across gender, across every single spectrum that you can think of. Because, like I said before, media and culture form a feedback loop.